Welcome to Emovura Audiobooks channel. This is playlist of Emovura Crime Files. Rewind, where every story starts at the end. The story is called The Midnight Round. Get comfortable. Here's where it ends. The end, night nurse Priyanka Sengupta was walked out of the ICU in handcuffs at 3 in the morning, past the family dozing uneasily in the waiting room under fluorescent light, past the vending machines humming quietly in the empty hallway. In the very same hour her patient's own chart had, only hours earlier, read plainly, stable, resting comfortably, vitals within normal range. The hospital's risk management director stood near the nurse's station, watching her go, arms crossed tightly over his chest, clipboard already tucked under one arm, and did not try especially hard to hide his obvious relief that the story now had a clean, simple shape to it. Priyanka said nothing as they walked her past the room where her patient had died. She had learned over 9 years of night shifts exactly how little it mattered what she said in moments like this one. One of the security guards, a young man she'd once helped talk through a panic attack in the stairwell, wouldn't meet her eyes as she passed him. Hours earlier, Priyanka had simply followed a medication adjustment order, left carefully in the patient's chart under pain management protocol, signed cleanly and confidently by Dr. Halverson, a routine instruction she had absolutely no reason in the world to question at 2 in the morning, deep into her 12th straight hour of a brutal double shift, with 3 other patients still needing rounds. She'd even mentioned to a colleague at the nurse's station that the dosage seemed slightly higher than usual, and been told reasonably that Halverson knew the case better than either of them did. She had no way of knowing that the chart itself had been quietly, deliberately altered hours earlier, engineered carefully, so she alone would be the last hand to have touched it before anyone thought to look closely at the timestamps buried in the system's edit history. Days earlier, the patient's grieving family had begun asking pointed, increasingly uncomfortable questions about a surgical complication just days after the original operation. Exactly the kind of questions the hospital's legal team wanted answered as quietly and as quickly as humanly possible before anything reached a lawyer's desk. Staff on every single shift were gently reminded, more than once, in the softest possible corporate language during a hallway meeting, to keep the documentation clean going forward from that point on. No further explanation offered to anyone below director level. Weeks earlier, weeks before any of this began, Dr. Halverson had made a serious dosing error during the original surgery's anesthesia, a small, forgivable-seeming mistake that sent the patient into a slow, quiet decline nobody caught in time to reverse before it became permanent. Rather than report it honestly and face the professional consequences that would follow him for the rest of his career, he had spent every following shift carefully adjusting charts. Just enough, just carefully enough each time, to steadily point blame toward the night staff instead of toward himself. The beginning. Halverson's long habit of cutting corners stretched all the way back to his residency years, to a malpractice case quietly settled long before it ever reached a courtroom or a single headline that might have followed him. The hospital chose its own reputation over the plain truth back then, and every single year since had only made that same convenient choice a little easier to make all over again, one settlement at a time, one quiet resignation letter at a time from whichever nurse happened to be standing closest. The stable, resting comfortably note in the chart, the one small detail that made Priyanka's shift look directly, unmistakably responsible for the death that followed just hours later, had been entered by Halverson himself, a full 2 hours before she had ever even walked into that room to begin her routine midnight round. Thanks for rewinding this one with us on Emovura Crime Files. If you want to catch the next one, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. A new rewind story. I'll see you in the next one.